So this video is probably going to be a bit different. Yes, I know it is the first one I've done in like 5 days. I've been really busy. I've got some stuff that I definitely want to talk to you guys about, but that'll have to wait till later because we've got a really busy week. There's a lot of games to cover, and this is the first of it. But here's where I say it's going to be a little different. Number one, this video will not be as long. And number two, I'm going to have to watch how I actually do the video side of it. And if you didn't know, it's done separately. Obviously, I do the audio, then I do the video, or vice versa. But the video for this one might get me in some trouble. So I've got to watch how I could not make it so gory. I'm not that good of an editor, so I don't know how to do like the blurry thing, and so yeah, that'll be interesting. But anyway, like I said, this is gonna be a pretty busy week. We got a lot of really great indie games coming out, and I can tell you because I've played them, and so many of them are really fun and interesting. And I wanted to start off again with a good one. This one is a retro horror pixelized style game that I think many people would agree that it probably borrowed some inspiration from like that old school like Friday the 13th game or some of those other ones. I actually haven't played them, I've just seen images, but it really definitely reminded me of this game. But before we get into any of that, please hit that like and subscribe button. Please help us get to 2,000 subscribers before 2025. I actually forgot where I was at. It's been that long, honestly. Like, it's been like 5 or 6 days since I've been behind here, and that just throws me off. Anyway, so this game is called Camp Sunshine. And we take control of a character by the name of Jess, who's a teenager, and as one could guess, is on summer vacation, and so he's going to a summer camp. We do find out later that there is some personal issues going on with Jess. It doesn't actually relate to the horror. It is kind of relevant as to why he's on summer camp, but it really just adds more depth to the character and to the story in general. As we arrive at camp, though, with it being a long journey, it's pretty late, and so we essentially figure out it's time to go to bed. And we do meet our roommate, though, and pretty cool person. A few words are exchanged, and then it's lights out. But only a few short hours later, startled by some commotion that causes us to wake up relatively quickly, and we notice that our roommate is dead. In a very brutal fashion, our roommate has been murdered while we were sleeping. So we do what any normal teenager or person in general would do, and we go to get help. And that's when we discovered that pretty much the entire camp is a gory mess. And as we check the different buildings, the dorms, we just come across more and more of our fellow campers and counselors being dismembered in a very disgusting display of brutality. And it's at this point when we have lost all hope and we're pretty sure we're going to be the next victim that we then get transported into the swamp of all areas where we meet some shaman. Or some very interesting people who I would argue are probably shaman. They don't exactly say, hey, we're shaman, but you get the point. And they essentially say, hey, there's a key to stopping this. This is a deep evil. This isn't just some random psycho with a knife. There is much more going on, but you're going to have to find the clues. And they give you this whole list of items that you need to find. At the same time, you're also looking for diary entries from the last counselor, who this whole thing kind of started with him. In a roundabout speaking, his whole story itself will play out for you, and it's kind of one of the main things that keeps you going through the game, is just to hear this tale. It is written well, and it's very intriguing. It reminds me of a lot of the old school horror movies. There's always something deeper than just, hey, there's a psycho with a knife, that there always has to be some sort of evil, demonic layer that's just beneath the surface. Not only will the diary pages tell us the story of what happened, but it'll also tell us the items that we're going to need to collect that need to be transformed into their ultimate form or something. I don't want to get too much into that because that's basically the end of the game. And for most of the game, the gameplay also plays out as essentially a walking simulator, if you will. Now, there is a bit of technique to it, as you do have to solve puzzles, very light puzzles. For the most part, you're just obtaining items that people need to either get out of an area or to save them in some way, or come up with a concoction that they think will work, whatever. And in turn, they always give you a diary page. So if your question was, is there combat in the game? No, there is not combat in the game. And like I said, there's very little actual puzzle solving. Most of the enjoyment from this game really just comes from the storytelling and trying to avoid being chopped up by the bear with a gigantic knife. And that's essentially most of the game. And this game will run you $6.99, and it goes about 2 to 4 hours. It kind of depends how many times you get tracked down by the bear, or If you get stuck in some places, it's very difficult to get stuck, by the way. I had almost no problem, but it can be tricky avoiding that murderous bear. And ultimately, I actually did enjoy the game. I do think it's one of those games, though, that if you are just heavily against walking simulators, you need combat, you need a lot of action all the time, this is probably not a good one for you. But I will say, knowing that there is no combat and you have this bear chasing you and there's only so much stamina you have, when there is action, it's pretty terrifying. It can keep you freaked out about running into this thing while you're out there. And honestly, I think for the price, it's also a pretty good pickup, under $10, and I think it's gonna give you, I would say this is the type of game that you could probably get 1 to 3 gaming sessions out of it, and you're gonna really enjoy your time if you like this style of game. That's an obvious though, but I always feel like I have to put that caveat on there. There's some people who will kind of get mad, like, well, I don't even like RPGs, and you said this was a 10 out of 10. Okay, well, if you don't like RPGs, then obviously you wouldn't like this game. But anyway, that's not you. That's none of you, trust me. But my point is if you do like this kind of survival horror style game without there being a lot of combat, but really well written, some pretty deep story, and some very scary moments, then this is a pretty good pickup at that $6.99 price, and I also bet there's going to be a sale. But anyway, that's my thoughts for it. If I was going to give it a number score, which I don't like giving games number scores, but I would give it probably a solid 7 out of 10. I did have a few technical issues with it. I always felt like the game was lagging a little bit at different times. Like, not even when the bear was on screen or anything, or when a lot was happening. It would just be like, while I'm exploring, the map will just kind of like lag behind. It only happened a few times. It's not something that happened that often. I would only say like maybe 2 to 3 times in my entire experience of playing it. And no crashes or anything like that. Everything seemed to run well. Anyway, let me know what your thoughts are. Is this a game that you're interested in checking out? Has this been on your list, or have you not even heard of it? Anything and everything. Let me know what games you're interested in playing that's coming up. There's a lot of cool games coming out. All of that is incredibly appreciated. One other thing though, while I got you here, I just wanted to explain to some people where I've been. Now, I wanted to save this to the end because if you just cared about the game review, then that's done. But I did just want to mention to all of you guys who see my videos every other day or so, they pop up quite a bit, and I've been really inconsistent lately. Yeah, that's a multitude of issues. For one, my daughter has gotten asthma, and she's sick. It seems like she's sick like all the time, which I feel awful for her, and the whole experience is pretty rough. But it's not just that. Actually, our landlord told us we need to be out of the house by the end of the year. So she gave us like a solid 3 months to find a new house, and the housing market sucks. So, there's days where I have it planned to work on a video or whatever, and instead I've got to go see a house, and then we got to deal with buying a house and working with the bank and all this other stuff. So there's a lot of stuff going on, but I will try to be better at being more consistent. And I almost have to, because we've got so many games to talk about this week alone, let alone the next couple weeks. But anyway, I just wanted to throw that little explanation out, not only to make my video go to the point where I get money for it, but also just because I really want to touch base with you guys, because you are awesome and I love you all. Anyway, take care everyone. Bye bye.